Influencer marketing is continuing to grow, but how do you know what platform is going to continue to trend and be the one you should go all in on with your influencer marketing campaigns? Today we're going to talk about my 3 favorite categories and which one I think is going to stand the test of time. Stay tuned to the end because I'm going to tell you exactly how to find the best influencers in that category and how to negotiate and price with them on the best terms. Welcome to today's episode, and my name is Joey Valancourt. I am the founder of Partner Up Profits, where we talk about how to make more money with your business through partnership marketing, everything from influencers, affiliates, any kind of partners that can drive more sales to your business and become somewhat of an extension of your sales team. That's the way I've made my money for clients and myself. Now, today we're talking about influencers. We're going to focus deep in the niche of influencer marketing, and we're going to talk about the 3 categories. I'm also going to give you a winning strategy to negotiate the best deals. So again, stick around to the end. We're going to talk about that, and it'll be in the description below. There might even be a script in the description, and I might continue to evolve that. So always pay attention down there whenever you're on YouTube or any video platform. Here are the 3 categories of influencers that at least I define as influencer categories. Number 1, influencers on social media. So we're talking TikTok, Instagram, maybe LinkedIn, Pinterest, things like that. Number 2, podcast advertising, or podcast interviews, or podcasts at large. Number 3 are YouTube influencers. Now, of course, they're all bucketed or umbrellaed under influencer marketing. They all have influence, they all have authority, they all have personality. That to me is the definition of an influencer, because you're using the influence of them and using their audience and using their credibility and likeness, etc., to get their customers to go and buy from you. But they are very different. And if you don't consider that, then you're not going to consider what you should pay and when you should pay more or less. Pricing of each of these 3. Let me walk through how I look at pricing of Instagram, YouTube, and podcasts. First thing you have to consider is what is the risk assessment of each channel, what's the profit potential of each channel, and what are non-revenue attributed things that you should consider when you're advertising on different categories of influencer marketing channels. So pricing of YouTube can be one of the most expensive because they have to produce a lot of content. Now, there's a couple different types of YouTube promotions, right? There could be the full-on review video, which is like maybe 10 to 15 minutes long. It takes a long time for them to produce the content. There could be just you're sponsoring the description link. Those are easier. That's easy real estate, but it's not the prime real estate. Then there's also just pre-roll, mid-roll, and end rolls. So to think of this as people who are doing videos already, and all they're doing is just doing a quick shout out for your product with a link and a code in the description below, etc. So that's kind of YouTube. But at the end of the day, the most pricey ones, but the most valuable videos from YouTubers is whenever they do a full-on sponsored video on your product. And of course, this isn't like a product endorsement. This could just be like a day in the life of me and my products that I use. It's always meant to be an indirect way to market a product, but it has to have a hook and a curious element of why people would want to watch that video. Beyond just, this product's great, please buy this product, because people see through that, right? And it's not entertaining. And YouTube is meant to be entertaining as much as possible. So you're gonna have a really pricier price point, mark that down as something to comment on. And then you're gonna have one of the biggest long tail effects of sales. And I'll talk more about that in just a bit. Let's move on now to social influencers. So think about TikTok, Instagram, and Pinterest, and whatever else ends up coming up while you're watching this video. Now, less costly, more risky because there's less attribution associated. Some brands don't care. Some brands just say, hey, as long as we're making more sales, we're golden. Some people need attribution. And I understand that, because being a business owner, you want to protect your bottom line. You need to make profits. You need to understand what correlates from an ad spend to a sale. Influencer marketing, of course, is a visual, and sometimes people don't click links because they're on their device. They don't buy because they're not interested. They're just scrolling around. So for me, it's going to be less costs, and a CPM is usually how people price videos, posts, anything to do with sponsored placements. It's going to be, let's just say, a lot less than a YouTube video might be, but attribution is going to be harder, and they don't live on. Think about social, Instagram, etc. I mean, a post lives on, a story doesn't. People aren't actively going back and engaging on old posts, at least not in my opinion, and not to the velocity that I'd like them to, that is compared to a YouTube video could be a lot more. YouTube videos can build steam, can build engagement over time. And if this person's audience grows, they might binge watch all these people's videos, including audiences that aren't even associated with the channel, meaning they never even subscribe, but it's popping up because it's so popular. So that's why, again, I think YouTube is definitely the wave of the future. But let's talk about podcast advertising. So podcast advertising is the third method of social influencers. Now, or I should say influencer marketing. Podcast advertising had a place and time, and it still exists, but it's getting more expensive. It's getting more expensive, and in my opinion, it's not worth the extra cost, especially when it comes to bigger shows. Bigger shows, and they price on listeners. Listeners is a vanity metric. It's hard to determine how many of those people are actually buyers, because sometimes they're just there for the podcast. They don't really care about the product endorsement, or maybe it's not the right product fit for that particular audience. But yet, podcasts can be some of the most expensive placements. In addition to being pricier, it's a lot harder to get on, and it requires much more upfront. You can't just buy one podcast ad. You can buy one podcast ad if you're doing podcast insertions, which is different than podcast sponsored placements, brand type of influencers, right? So the point is, it's going to take a lot more upfront cash to get into podcast advertising, and it's riskier, and it takes a lot more time to actually get your investment back. I've seen a trailing 90-day cash flow suck for some podcast ads, meaning I spend on day one, but I don't make it back until day 90. Some companies cannot survive that way, so this might not be the best place for you. In which case, podcast advertising continues to live on, but it's more for the established brands who have a really good presence, good authoritative figure already, and can afford the cash cycle of anywhere from a 30 to 60 to 90-day cash suck. So that was kind of the pricing of podcasts, YouTube, and influencers. Let's talk about the pros and cons. So, start with YouTubers. Pros is that the video lives on. And if it does really well, I mean, it could do really well for you long term. I've seen models where a video is still making money 3 to 4 years down the road. And that was from potentially just one investment into one particular deal, meaning I didn't have to continue to pay for that person over time. The con of YouTube is that it takes a long time to both find a YouTuber that's willing to do this video, get the content produced, and get it published. And then from there, you're not guaranteed to make that ROI back in the first 30 days. So again, I go back to what are you willing to invest in that you're willing to wait on as like you're planting a garden rather than a coin-operated machine like a Facebook ad might be. And there's room for both, but we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Now, the pros and cons of social influencers, meaning like a post on Instagram, TikTok, etc. The pro is you could literally send somebody a product tomorrow and they could post about it tomorrow. You could get that UGC turned around within a week, right? So it's really quick. And of course, influencers do sell. I'm not saying that there's no profit potential, but I just think that it's a quick turnaround and access to large audiences really, really fast. Now, the con to this is that it's really hard to pick the right influencers, and most people aren't doing it the right way. And I've got some exercises on partnerprofits.com you can check out if you want to check out exactly how to do this the right way. But in my opinion, most people just aren't equipped with the right knowledge and skill set to find influencers. They're always focused on the vanity metric. Oh, they have 1 million followers. They're going to blow up my business. It's not the case. There's engagement. There's other factors that I look for. I mean, there's probably 20 to 30 point checklist systems out there that I use with teams to make sure we prospect so that when we pay for an influencer, we're putting our best foot forward. And yeah, there's always a risk, but that's really the con to that. It can be dangerous and it can be pricey. Now, for podcasts, the pros of podcasts, I mean, if you get a podcast, that's some serious authority, especially if you get the right podcasters and the right influencers out there. Because now you can also use that as leverage. You can use that as credibility. You could use their likeness in your ads. You could use that on your page. You could get on interviews with them. There's so much potential for it. Now, the drawback to that, of course, is the cost and the potential for it might not work, but it gives you an authority play. And if you're looking to build the brand versus just turn a profit, then I would say consider this as a secondary benefit to the profit, meaning even if you broke even, it might still be a win for the fact that you got onto this show and you got in front of so many people and eyes that now look at you as, wow, you were on that show. That's incredible. And it just adds to your credibility more so than just the profits that are coming back to your business. So I have a term that I like to use: diversify, multiply, and amplify. If you're currently doing influencer marketing and you're only doing podcast advertising, you're going to want to diversify, because If you do social posts now with these podcasters, you're going to continue to see better results. And by testing different markets, you're going to continue to diversify your investment. Think of this like an investor's portfolio. You wouldn't just put all your money into one single stock or one share. You want to put it across multiple things. You want to hedge your bet, as it were. So I look at it as, where are you at today? Where can you afford to diversify a little bit? And then once you diversified, then you're going to multiply. You're going to multiply how many partners you have. So let's say you start with one Instagram partner. You're going to test that for a little bit. Once it starts to feel good, then you're going to multiply how many partners you do. And the starting point doesn't have to be 1. It could be like a base of 10, but you don't want to move to 100 until you figured out the code with 10 influencers first. From there, I go to Amplify. So it's diversify, multiply, then amplify. And amplify is then doing more with the partners that you started from the multiplication. So again, if you started now with an influencer, well, maybe you're going to see if they have a podcast, maybe you can see if they have a YouTube channel, an email newsletter list, but now you're going to amplify that content. Then you can move into amplification of co-branding. You could put their image on a special page that you give them a special link for, that only that page has their image on it. So it looks like it's a co-branded initiative and it's a partnership at that point. Now, those are things I would do with people only later on in the relationship, once you've seen a certain ROI that says, yeah, I want to continue to work with this person. But in my opinion, YouTube is definitely going to be the wave of the future. I love YouTube for so many reasons. People are there because they want to learn, they're engaged, they want to be entertained, and they're primed. Most people, I like to think that they're on desktop, although different audiences are on their mobile, etc. But it's a whole different level of engagement. And the beauty of YouTube is that it doesn't disappear. Consider whenever you're advertising through PPC, pay-per-click, Google, whatever, when you're advertising on YouTube, now, this is some expertise, and I'm not saying that you can't make really good money from advertising on YouTube videos, meaning like you're paying to actually show up as an ad placement that pops up in the middle of a video. They're annoying, and it's not the exact same thing I'm talking about. I'm talking about literally a video itself that promotes your product. It's baked in, it's evergreen, so it doesn't disappear and it continues to get eyes on it. And if you pick the right creators, and we're gonna go into exactly how to pick those creators in just a second, those creators' audiences are going to grow. Meaning you could buy their video based on their following today. Some YouTube channels can blow up in 6 months and go from 5,000 subs, 500,000 subscribers. Now that's a huge outlier, of course, I'm exaggerating, but you get the picture. Is you could pay for a $3,000 video that would have then cost you maybe $50,000 if you went back in 6 months. So you want to try to identify the micro creators before they make it big. The ways that I do that currently, and this can always change, and again, check the description below for more details on like the upgraded process as it continues to evolve, because it does always evolve, it never stops. But here's what I'm looking for in my checklist system with my teams. One, it has to be the right fit. So, who are they? What are they advertising in general, or what's their messaging like? Number 2 is, are they consistent with their content? Is the content good? And are they growing in subscriber and view count? And are they not already picked up by another brand? So if I'm advertising a supplement and someone else advertising the exact same supplement, I don't want to target that person. So I like to look for affinity audiences. People that aren't advertising the direct product, but are advertising products related to the product that I sell. So maybe it's, I have a sleep supplement, so I might look for somebody reviewing mattresses all the time. I'm not selling a mattress, right? I'm selling a sleep supplement, but their audience is still the same. They're interested in things that can help them benefit from better sleep. So that's the way I look at it. Now, there's a couple sites you can go check out. Socialblade.com is a good one. You can go, it's a free version. You don't even have to do the paid version of that. And to be honest, I don't use the paid version all that much right now. I might use it in the future more, but I don't know. But for now, what I can get from that channel is there's ratings of their channel. Everything from an A grade to an F grade. You can see their most popular videos. You can see similar audiences to other channels that are related to what their channel is. So if this is a perfect partner or somebody that you've already done business with and you know is successful, you might want to look for those similar audience and channels. What I also look for is the trailing 6 months. What have they done in 6 months as far as subscriber count? How many video views did they get 6 months ago versus today? And I take the average of both of those numbers and I equate it to a value of an average. So maybe one partner has a 50% growth rate. Another partner has a 10% growth rate over the past 6 months. And again, that's a combination of their subscriber growth and the video view growth. So you put those two together, and it's a simple metric that you can look at. Now what I look at is the subscriber count of their today subscriber, their live, however many fans they have. So let's just say, for example, someone has 500,000 subscribers, but 6 months ago, they only had 50. They had a huge trajectory. They gained a lot. Now, they might be untouchable now. So what I'm looking for is I'm still looking for that growth metric of that average percentage of growth over the last 6 months with somebody who grew from like 5,000 to 20,000, because they're still in the micro creator category. They're probably still hungry. They might not have got their first brand deal yet, and they're poised for the taking on getting a really good deal and locking them in before they blow up and establishing that relationship. I want to invest in creators like that. I want to invest in their future. I want to be their first brand deal. So then what I do is I price all this accordingly. It has to be relevant. Most people will give you a price tag based on subscriber count of I've got X amount of subscribers, therefore I'm worth this CPM. Again, cost per mil is the unit of measurement that people price ads on. And we'll have a definition of that if you want. It might be on the screen here. So they might charge you on that. If you're just to pay that at face value, that's a lot of money, especially if you're dealing with bigger influencers who have a large following. So the way I like to look at it is I take that into account. I look at the last 10 videos they had. What's their average view count as it relates to their total subscribers? And then I also go to something like socialblade.com or something else, it doesn't matter. And then I take the average 6-month growth rate. Are they on the decline or upcline, or are they kind of in the middle? Then I make an informed decision. So from there, what I would do is I would say, if somebody hasn't grown a lot, but they have a large following count, I might say, well, your price is a little bit high. It doesn't look like you're growing too much, and your average last 10 videos didn't do more than X amount per video. I actually am going to price you a little bit less based on that. Now, you want to be very careful with the way you word this, right? Because people can get defensive if you say you're not worth something. So I would do better at being more articulated in my response. But essentially, I'm going to say, here's what we're proposing based on what we're seeing as stats. If somebody on the other side of the spectrum who's just growing their channel says, like, I'm worth this, I might actually even pay them a bit more. And that sounds counterintuitive, but I would actually go and say, hey, listen, we get that. We want to invest in you to potentially put ad spend behind this video. We want you to, go to Google, put some ad spend into an account and target for these keywords so that you can get even more relevancy up, get the algorithm kicked in, get more views. They're going to be just blown away by that, right? Like, you want to invest an extra $1,000 in me versus my $5,000 rate? Why? Well, because we believe in you. We want this to be a long-term thing, and we want to keep believing in you. But in order for us to do that, we need to see success from the beginning. So what else could you do with this extra $1,000? Going above and beyond. Again, we talk about this all the time. Abundance over scarcity always wins. So that's the way that I would go about doing those things. That's the way I'd price it. Those are kind of the 3 categories of influencers that you could work with. And again, if I sound like YouTube is my favorite, it's because it is today, but that might change and evolve depending on client success, depending on the verticals that I'm working in. And for you, it might be different as well. And the key is to define and understand what works for your business. But the only way to do that is to test it for yourself using educated backing, right? So these videos that I'm sharing with you, hopefully they share some insights that's helpful, that helps you understand and make informed decisions. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. I'm just giving you my take on this, and hopefully you enjoyed it, because I always enjoy sharing, and I want to make this make sense to as many people as possible so that we don't feel burned, so that we feel like our investment in influencer marketing is real, and that we're investing in creators to live their best lives, and that by doing so, our businesses are thriving. And that's really what Partner Up Profits is all about. So if you like that concept and you want to continue to learn more, things like this and other things, make sure to hit subscribe to the podcast, the YouTube channel. Again, if you're watching us on a podcast, make sure to check out the videos. There's some really cool, overlays and things happening on here. But if you're on YouTube, you can also listen in your car on a podcast. Anything you can do to stay connected. And as of course, comment below if there's anything else that you're doing that you want to share insights on, because this is a collaborative community. This isn't a one-sided conversation, and I'm always learning myself. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.